Hello friends and welcome to lesson 1B. In this we'll continue with the sectors of economy, this particular lesson. And as in the previous lesson we have studied little bit about how important is manufacturing sector for an economy. Let us continue with that discussion in this video. So importance of manufacturing sector in an economy, especially in a developing economy like India, it is because it forms the core of the secondary sector. So although secondary sector includes other things also like construction activity, etc., but manufacturing forms the core of that, and it is by far the largest provider of employment in the secondary sector. So manufacturing forms the core of secondary sector. It contributed 17% to country's GDP in the year 2023. This is the latest data that I could obtain. So you see that the share of GDP is still very less in our country. It is only 17%. So we are by far very much behind being called as an manufacturing economy or industrial economy. It employs about 2.73 crore people in the formal manufacturing industries. Okay, about 2.73 crore people are employed, which is again a very small number when we look at the total working age population of our country. So formal sector employment is very less in the manufacturing sector. Now there are plans to increase this share to 25% by 2025. This is what was said by Honorable Prime Minister in the World Economic Forum in 2023, that India plans to increase this share of 17% to 25% by in the next 2 years, 2025. So that speech was in the context of basically make in India, make for the world. This was the theme, and he was speaking in the context of a new scheme which was brought by the government of India, which is known as PLI scheme, which is known as production linked incentive scheme. Now, what are the key roles of manufacturing sector in an economy? Let us first see that. So as we all know that it creates jobs in the economy. Job creation is an important activity, especially in developing economies. Okay, so as we know that in the developing economies, mostly which start being the agrarian economy, primary sector is a dominant sector there. In order to pull out the additional labor from the primary sector, this manufacturing sector provides an important base here, so that extra people who are working in primary sector, underemployed people, can be switched to the manufacturing sector and new jobs can be created. So that is how your economy grows. So especially in developing economies, job creation is very important, and it is done by manufacturing sector. Then it also has a big multiplier effect. Multiplier effect meaning that manufacturing leads to creation of jobs in other sectors also. Okay, like I have explained it to you in the previous video, it is a client base for service sectors like logistics, banking, finance, IT related consultancies, etc. So it provides a client base for other sectors, thereby creating jobs in those sectors also. Okay, for example, if there is a factory which engages transportation service, so indirectly it will create jobs for drivers who will actually drive those vehicles, those trucks, or other vehicles. So it is creating jobs in other sectors also, and it takes raw material from the primary sector, thereby supporting it. So these again we have seen. So manufacturing sector becomes a central sector, and it links it has a lot of forward and backward linkages in the economy. So it has a multiplier effect. Now it boosts exports. Okay, so manufacturing exports like automobiles, textile, electronics can be crucial for countries' foreign exchange earnings. So we can start exporting our products. China is an example whereby it it started its manufacturing, it boosted its manufacturing back in 1980s, and since then it has picked up. And the manufacturing exports of China is one of the largest in the entire world. So that is how it is earning the foreign exchange also. So manufacturing is an important for foreign exchange reserves of the country, as it boosts exports. Now, manufacturing also leads to technological advancements. Manufacturing drives research and development. It is said that necessity is a mother of invention. So, manufacturing process, these companies, they invest in research and development, and that is how new inventions are brought, and it drives the research and development. So, example is Apple, which manufactures iPhones and iPads, etc. So you can see that this phone manufacturing company, it also invests a lot in research and development. Similarly, other industries also. So technological advancements take place. Then it leads to balanced regional development. So wherever there is some backwardness in any region of the country or any part of any state, so manufacturing can provide a very promising way to economic development in that region. Okay, so we can promote industrial clusters which can promote growth in underdeveloped areas. It can generate jobs there. It can skill population. So in a way, population will get skilled, and if they start working, it provides basic amenities also. Social infrastructure gets created like roads, sanitation, street lights, etc. This manufacturing, wherever the manufacturing unit comes up, so these services are automatically created. So it results into regional development also, and it balances disparities between two regions of the country. So that is how manufacturing helps. Now let us look at the challenges in the manufacturing sector. This is the most important part of this video, and I would like you to pay attention here. So challenges in manufacturing sector, it is not just for India but globally also. There are many challenges which impede the growth and ability of this sector to contribute significantly to the economy. Okay, and these are some of the challenges which we would discuss. So the first one is the infrastructure bottlenecks. Okay, so this I have discussed in the previous video also very briefly. Now what are the different things here? So first is your inadequate power supply. Okay, so electricity, basically unreliable electricity hampers the productivity of a factory, especially in rural and semi-urban areas. Many industries, they rely on costly backup generators which increase their operational costs. Okay, so if power supply is not adequate or is not proper, then it results into slow growth of manufacturing sector. Then the second infrastructure bottleneck would be related to transport and logistics bottlenecks. Okay, so poor roads, railways, port connectivity, it increases the transportation costs and also delays the transportations. And for India, if we talk, India ranks very low, relatively low basically, when it comes to World Bank's logistics performance index. Okay, logistics performance index is given by the World Bank, and we rank very low here. Okay, due to inefficiencies in these areas. And also there is one more area where there is an infrastructure bottleneck, which is lack of digital infrastructure. Okay, digital infrastructure in India is also a little behind than rest of the world, and many small and medium scale manufacturers, they still struggle with adoption of advanced digital technologies, including automation and artificial intelligence. So these are some of the areas where these infrastructure bottlenecks hamper or impede the growth of manufacturing sector. These are the challenges that we face. Now let us come to the second challenge, which is basically related to labor. Again, this we have discussed briefly in the previous video. The first would be, I would say, the labor laws, which we have discussed. There are complex and rigid labor laws in India which make it difficult for companies to hire and fire the workers based on the demand of the market. Okay, it leads to inefficient workforce management and reduced flexibility. It also results into industry getting incentivized into expanding further, because the larger the company, more compliances it has to do related to labors. Okay, and the second one is the skill gaps. Okay, so there are a lot of skill deficiencies in the Indian workers. Despite India's large labor force, a significant portion lacks the necessary skills for modern manufacturing. especially in technology driven industries. Okay, so we our workforce is not skilled enough to work in modern manufacturing, like production or manufacturing of semiconductors, of chips, which are microchips, which are used in computers and other IT products. So that kind of high end manufacturing is still not picking up in our country because of lack of skills. There is a mismatch between the educational outcomes and industry requirements also. So industries have gone a little ahead and our education system is still teaching the outdated things to our students. So that mismatch is there, and particularly in the areas related to advanced manufacturing, robotics, precision engineering. So these are the fields which we need to take up so that our industrial sector will grow. And also the third, which is the low labor productivity compared to the global standards. Labor productivity in Indian manufacturing is low, and it is primarily due to insufficient skills and outdated technologies in use. So these are the three things which which are present in labor related issues. Again, a very important challenge for the manufacturing sector. Then let us come to the third challenge, which is related to technology and research and development. So Indian manufacturing spends very less on R&D compared to the global peers, limiting innovation and competitiveness. So in India, there is very less spending on R&D. Most of the R&D happens abroad, and here we are simply just the here simply we do the assembly of those things. So R&D spending is very less, and there is very less innovation and competitiveness. And government policies, although they are supportive, they have not been able to boost the private sector R&D investment in our country. So this is one concern, one challenge where there is an intervention needed. There is a slow technological upgradation also, especially by the MSMEs. Okay, especially MSMEs are having very slow pace of technology upgradation, and MSMEs form a very large part of India's manufacturing sector. So unless and until MSMEs will taking up the technological upgradation, our manufacturing will not in real sense grow. So MSME, they still use obsolete technologies, which results into inefficiency and poor quality of output. And adoption of automation, AI, Internet of Things, IoT is still at a very nascent stage in India. Okay, and basically these things are known as Industry 4.0, Industrial Revolution, Fourth Industrial Revolution. Okay, 4.0. So which includes your AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, etc., automation. So these new things are still at a very nascent and very mid stage in our country. The next challenge remains, that is regulatory and bureaucratic complexities. Indian manufacturers often face a labyrinth of regulations and compliances, both at the central and state government levels. Bureaucratic inefficiencies lead to delays in approvals and licensing. So we have a lot of red tapeism still present, although after liberalization a lot of things have changed. There is a single window clearance system, but still there are a lot of delays. There are taxation issues also. Okay, while the goods and service tax, the GST system has simplified the tax to some extent, many manufacturers, they still face issues with compliance, refunds, and interpretations of GST rules. So being complex rules, it is difficult to interpret those things and to make compliances. Again, in the previous video I have told you that land acquisition is another area where there are problems. So securing land for setting up of manufacturing plants is a very prolonged process, also very expensive process due to land ownership disputes and regulatory hurdles in our country. So you know that the land administration is very complex structure in our country, and there are a lot of disputes with respect to ownership of land, and because of that the land acquisition is very difficult. So a lot of regulatory hurdles there as well. Then the next challenge is related to financing. So financing challenge remain, and the cost of credit in India is high. Many manufacturing units, particularly MSMEs again, they struggle to access affordable financing. Interest rates in India are comparatively high. which increase the cost of capital. Okay, cost of capital is very high in India compared to other countries. Access to credit is especially problematic for small firms, that is MSMEs. Okay, and they have to rely on informal sources for credit. These firms often lack collateral and financial track record, so it is difficult for them to secure a bank loan, okay, to from some institutional financing firms. And there are delayed payments also. So many small manufacturers, they face working capital issues due to delayed payments from buyers, especially larger corporations or government entities. So that is another area which remains a challenge for our Indian manufacturing sector. Then we have to face fierce global competition from countries like China, Vietnam. Vietnam is another country which is taking up the manufacturing at a very, very fast pace. So Indian manufacturers, they face very stiff competition from the low cost manufacturing nations like China, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and particularly in sectors like textiles, electronics, and auto components, which are labor intensive. So because of this, we are not able to generate jobs also. Okay, and there are many tariff and non-tariff barriers also which we have to face. There are fluctuating global trade policies, tariff barriers, regulatory barriers like anti-dumping duties which impact the competitiveness of Indian manufacturers in an international market. So global competition is another factor which hinders our growth, particularly of manufacturing. Then there are many protectionist measures also by many countries, and it has risen very significantly in the recent past. And there are many tariffs imposed by the countries like US or European markets, which create barriers for Indian exports. So that is another problem. Seventh challenge for our manufacturing sector is supply chain disruptions. So many events which are basically maybe natural events or man-made events also. For example, COVID-19 pandemic, it has exposed huge vulnerabilities in global supply chains, so which has resulted into disruptions in raw material sourcing, intermediate good sourcing, especially from countries like China. So supply chain disruptions also present in the worldwide throughout have resulted into have actually impacted the Indian manufacturing sector. Then dependency on imports is another thing. So we are dependent on imports as our raw material. India still imports a significant portion of critical manufacturing inputs such as electronic components, heavy machinery, and raw materials, okay, from outside. And over dependence on inputs for essential components has made the sector vulnerable to supply chain disruptions. So that is another thing which is a challenge for our manufacturing sector. Then environmental regulations, this again we have studied in the previous video. There are many stringent environmental norms, increasingly stringent regulations related to environment, and a global push for greener manufacturing require significant investment in clean technology. So compliance with these regulations can be costly, particularly for smaller firms. So we are not yet at a stage where we can adopt clean technologies because they involve a lot of R&D and more expenditure, and our smaller firms cannot really afford that. So these environmental regulations are becoming a kind of hurdle for our manufacturing growth. Then there are many sustainability concerns also, moving towards more sustainable manufacturing practices, such as reducing carbon emissions and adopting circular economy models. It involves heavy upfront investment in new technologies and practices, which many firms are reluctant to make. Okay, as I have told you that we are still very small, and we can't make significant investments front loading into this particular sectors, this particular areas. And finally, there are export related challenges also for the Indian manufacturing. So there are poor branding of Indian goods. Indian manufactured goods, especially in MSME sector, often suffer from poor branding, which makes it difficult to compete globally. Indian products are perceived as lower in quality compared to those from countries like Germany, Japan, China, US, etc. So there is poor branding. Trade facilitation issues are also present there. there are complicated custom processes and documentation required for exports increase lead which lead to for exports increase lead times and costs, making Indian exports less competitive. Okay, and finally quality standards and certification. Okay, quality certification is very stringent in many European countries and other countries also, and Indian manufacturers, especially the small scale ones, they often struggle to meet the international quality standards. Okay, which limit their ability to export to these markets like European Union or US or even the Middle East countries. So these are the various challenges of manufacturing sectors. Now what we can do to address these challenges? So basically it requires a multi-pronged strategy. Okay, so we need to have lot of different kind of policies and support from the government, as well as encourage lot of things. So it will be a multi-pronged strategy, obviously. So as we see that since the challenges are many, the solutions also have to be many. So there has to be we have to simplify our regulatory frameworks. We have to have skill development programs so that we take up on high-end manufacturing. We have to incentivize the R&D in the private sector by providing them sufficient subsidies or any other government support. We have to boost our infrastructure investment. This is very, very important, because countries like China and Vietnam, they are growing based on this by investing heavily into infrastructure. And we have to also encourage digital transformation, because this is the way forward, this is the future. So I think this is how we can encourage our manufacturing sector, and we can support it. And these strategies, combined with robust industrial policies like Make in India, then PLI, which is production linked incentives, these kind of schemes, they can help mitigate the challenges faced by the manufacturing sector and unlock its full potential, basically, which will ultimately contribute to the economic growth of our country. So I hope in this video you have understood about the importance of manufacturing sector, what are the challenges it faces, and what different things we can do to address these challenges. We'll continue in the next video. Thank you.